is 7:17. Call this regular school board meeting to order. Mr. Salazar, can you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, ma'am. Will everyone please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You can remain standing for a moment of silence. You may be seated. Mr. Castillo, can you please take roll?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Sandra Garcia,
Present.
Mr. Ruben Treviño.
Present.
I am here. Martin Castillo, Ms. Leticia Quintero,
Present.
Mr. Rick Farías,
Present.
Mr. Jesus Amaya,
Present.
Mr. Leonel Garza,
Present.
Dr. Gonzalo Salazar,
Present.
Ms. Priscilla de la Garza, Council.
Present.
Thank you. Item number 5 is public audience. We do not have anybody signed up for public audience or for item number 6, public comment. So we'll move on to district report. Dr. Salazar, I will turn that over to you.
Mrs. Garcia and members of the board, this evening we present to you our finance reports, items 8 through E. Does anyone have any questions on any of those items? Okay, if not, we move on to public notice for applying for the ESSER 2 federal grant funding. I'm going to ask Mr. Basaldua, our CFO, to give us a brief explanation on this item. Press the space bar.
There you go. They're better? Okay. Ultimately, what you have before you is a public notice as required for ESSER 2. The difference between the ESSER 3 and the ESSER 2, with ESSER 3, we needed to have a stakeholders meeting, and it came with various requirements. With the ESSER 2, all we have to do is have a public notice. This was placed on our bulletin board, and this is being presented to the board, and this will comply with the requirements for the ESSER 2. We're starting that grant application, which will be due within 30 days for the ESSER 2 funding. And that's all this really is.
Thank you, Mr. Basaldua. Does anyone have any questions on ESSER 2 funding? In a related item, we did receive our NOGA for ESSER 3, and we can begin to move on those expenditures according to the plan that we presented you. The next item we have is election calendar for November 2nd, uniform election date. We're well into that timeline where some candidates have already picked up their packets. We will continue to present this item until the November 2nd election. The next item is an employee handbook. I'm going to ask Mrs. Anaya to unmute and see if she can share with us, please, a couple of the highlights that are revisions to the employee handbook. Mrs. Anaya.
Can you hear me, Dr. Salazar?
Yes, ma'am, we can
No.
hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to use my phone for the, I don't know what's going on with my microphone.
No problem.
Okay. Hold on. Let me get my. Okay.
Let's do this, Mrs. Anaya. I'm going to go to Mrs. Amaro and we'll come back to
Yeah,
you. We're
okay.
going to go to student handbook real quick.
Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Amaro.
We can't hear you, Ms. Moore.
Sorry, thank you. For our students handbook, what we do is we mirror TASB's model handbook for student handbooks. There is very minimal changes. The only thing I can say is that There is a section for mental health procedures and assisting our parents and making either referrals or assisting them at the campus level for any mental health issues that they might be having. They'll be working very closely with the counselors, the department, and ensuring that parents and students are provided the assistance they need. Other than that, I think it's very cosmetic, just minor changes, no major change. The only other change I can think of is that we're asking parents that if students are diagnosed with COVID, that they please inform and notify our nurses or notify our administrators as well, so we can ensure that we follow all procedures. That's all we have.
Thank you, Mrs. Amato. On the employee handbook, we did make some cosmetic changes, some revisions
Yes.
to try to keep up with the trending, with fashions, the change. And we also have a change to policy DEC local. Policy update 117 calls for a revision to that policy so that we allow police officers 10 days of paid leave should they contract COVID while at work. And so they also are entitled to 2 days of COVID relief. Actually they ask for us to determine at the local level how many days. We're starting with 2 days, one in the fall and one in the spring. Mrs. Anaya, have I left anything else out?
The only thing that we are also making a change, Dr. Salazar, is on the paid vacation. They asked us to modify policy DED local and make those as administrative regulations as to the qualifications, how many vacation days each employee will get and how will they qualify for it. So we had moved it to the employee handbook and left it out from policy. It was a revision on policy. Under the leave for peace officers is 2 days for mental health and the 10 days for COVID related issues.
Thank you for the clarification. I think I said 2 days for COVID relief. It's 2 days for mental health. And then the 10 days of should they contract COVID while on duty. Any questions regarding those updates? Mrs. Garcia, the only other item, Mrs. Garcia and members of the board, the only other item is the Title I Family Engagement Policy Action Plan. This is an item that we bring to you every year at this time. And that completes all of the reports for this month.
Thank you, Dr. Salazar. We move on now to item number 8, consent agenda. This is a time of the year that we have a lot on consent agenda. We had a total of 42 items. At this time, if anyone has any item that they want us to pull, please raise your hand, let me know, and we'll pull it for separate discussion. Otherwise, I will take a motion on consent agenda. Mr. Amaya?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve, a consent agenda as posted, all 42 items, 1 through 42.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second on that? Thank you, Mr. Trevino. All those in favor of passing consent agenda, items 1 through 42, please raise your hand. Excuse me? Does it have to be vocal for Zoom or raising your hands good? Can it be just a raising of the hand or does it need to be vocal for Zoom? Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Item number 9, action items. The first item is to discuss and take action to approve an interlocal agreement for tax assessment and collection with Cameron County. Do I have a motion? Mr. Castillo?
Make a motion to approve an interlocal agreement for tax assessment and collection with Cameron County.
Do I have a second? Mr. Amaya will second. Are there any questions or any discussion on the motion? Mr. Amaya?
So the listing of the fees for each entity that they're using, and there was certainly variance in quite a few. Did they give you an explanation on how that was determined?
Let me defer to Mr. Basaldo. He certainly didn't give it to me. But do you have any insight, Mr. Basaldo?
Ultimately, they didn't clarify why there was a difference. You know, all we really knew is some of these contracts may have been in place for some time. So it really comes back to the time at which they may have entered into that agreement.
Any other questions from the board? There being no other discussion, all those in, did I get a second? Yes, Mr. Amaya seconded. All those in favor of approving the interlocal agreement for tax assessment and collections with Cameron County, please raise your hand. The motion passes unanimously. Item number 2, discuss and take action as necessary to add, revise, or delete local policies as recommended by TASB Policy Service and according to the instruction sheet for the TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 117. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion? Mr. Trevino, do I have a second? Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find it here. Ms. Quintero, thank you. Are there any questions or any discussion regarding the motion? There being no discussion, all those in favor, please raise your hand. The motion passes unanimously. The third item, item number 3, discuss and take action to approve the superintendent's personnel recommendations for the following positions for the 2021-2022 school year. We have teachers, counselors, a licensed specialist school psychologist intern, athletic trainer, and assistant principals. There's over 20 positions. Do I have a motion? Mr. Trevino.
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the board approve the superintendent's personnel recommendations for the following positions for the 2021-2022 school year. A, teachers. B, counselors. C, licensed specialist school psychologist. L, SSP intern, athletic director, and assistant principals. My apologies. Athletic trainer. Good catch, man.
Do I have a second on the motion? Ms. Quintero, thank you.
Phones were ringing. Mr.
Are there any questions on that motion or any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor to approve the superintendent's personnel recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for being patient. I look here and some people that are far, I can't see their hands, so that takes a little while to get used to. I don't know if anybody logged on to see if Miss Anaya knows if anybody's logged in. Who just
Not to
got
my
hired.
knowledge, Ms. Garcia.
Okay, thank you. Item number 10 is closed session. We don't have any items to discuss in closed session. So the last item, item number 12, are announcements. Dr. Salazar, do we have any announcements?
Mrs. Garcia and members of the board, this Thursday, August 12th, at 7:15, we have convocation at the Rio Aguilar Memorial Stadium. Again, we invite you, if your schedule is allowed, come out and join us. Mrs. Garcia will be giving a welcome on behalf of the board as well. On Monday, August 16th is the first day of school. If you ask parents, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And Monday, September the 6th, 6 p.m. Regular school board meeting. That meeting has been moved up. I'll be out of town the second week with attending a professional learning session. So we're moving it up so that we can hold our meeting before I go.
Thank you. Any other announcements from the board? I want to thank everybody for being flexible. I know we had things come up on Friday that delayed the meeting for today. So thank you for being flexible and hope y'all can make it out on Thursday. It is 7:32. I joined this meeting.